Hi, and welcome to Library Giving Day, the 2021 Spring Fundraising Event hosted by Carl Bloom Associates, also known as CBA. I'm Christina McPhillips from CBA and also a member of the planning committees for Library Giving Day and the International Public Library Fundraising Conference. We're pleased to have you here with us today. A few housekeeping items. You are all muted. This session is being recorded and will be posted to the Carl Bloom Associates YouTube page, and we will send a link out to that page after this webinar. At the end, we will have a live Q&A session where I will answer your questions. So with that, let's get started. Today's agenda will cover many topics. First, why are we here today? What's the backstory? And second, for those of you that are new to Library Giving Day, or maybe even those of you that have participated in Library Giving Day before and want a refresher, we'll talk about what Library Giving Day is. And then we'll talk about the success of Library Giving Day and how it's grown over the years. And finally, we'll dive into how you can make it your Spring 2021 event through the use of direct mail and digital, email, social media, and more. And we'll hear from your library peers in a few video clips, with two groups sharing how they personalized Library Giving Day for their organization. So, why are we here today? Let's give a little context. About 2 months ago, we started to hear from a number of libraries who were concerned about holding spring fundraising events. Here we are, deep in the time of COVID, and in-person events don't look possible for a long time. So how can libraries make up spring fundraising event revenue, and how can they keep communication channels flowing with donors and their community when important in-person spring events are sidelined? We aim to answer that question in this webinar. But first, what is Library Giving Day? I know we have some folks on this webinar who have participated in Library Giving Day before, but I'm sure we have some new people too who are looking to learn more. In the summer of 2018, during the second annual International Public Library Fundraising Conference in Denver, John Ward from the Seattle Public Library Foundation asked conference attendees if they would like a library-specific day of giving, similar to Giving Tuesday. The answer was a resounding yes. And in the following months, the Seattle Public Library Foundation and CBA partnered to get Library Giving Day up and running. And by January 2019, we announced that Library Giving Day was official with the launch of a website full of free materials. There was a toolkit, which we'll talk more about today, an official logo, emails, and more. In the following weeks and months, we started to send how-to emails to libraries with tips, reminders, and announcements. The first ever Library Giving Day was held in April 2019 with 192 libraries joining the movement. And by 2020, we had nearly 300 libraries join and run successful campaigns even during COVID. And I'll share those results with you shortly. So here we are today. It's October 2020. COVID is still impacting the way we meet in person, which means a number of you are concerned about spring events. And we hope to present you with a solution. Let Library Giving Day and socially distanced strategies like direct mail and email and social media be your go-to fundraising tools in 2021. I want to share the results of the first two Library Giving Days with you. When it comes to fundraising revenue, we can clearly see that 2020, a campaign that started just during the onset of COVID-19, had a significant increase. In fact, it was nearly a 50% increase in revenue over 2019. $1.1 million was raised, and that's just from the libraries that shared their results with us at CBA. We had a number of libraries that didn't share results. So we know that in 2019, 78 libraries reported fundraising revenue, and in 2020, 85 reported fundraising revenue, showing that the 2020 campaign had strong results despite fears of fundraising during COVID. Something else I really want to point out is a 90% increase in the number of gifts that came in during the 2020 campaign. 90% more donations were made in 2020 than in 2019. And donors and communities really responded well to the Library Giving Day messaging. It's for all of those reasons and the strong results we see from the 2 years of campaigns that we recommend Library Giving Day as your go-to spring fundraiser. But I want to spend some time talking about how to create the best possible campaign. There are a number of things that you can do to build awareness in the community, and I want to encourage you to visit librarygivingday.org and to read our how-to toolkit, and we'll talk more about that coming up. I want to also make you comfortable with replacing your spring event with a direct mail or email campaign. A number of the libraries we just showed results for used mail and email to fundraise around Library Giving Day. So let's get into building your campaign. And I would like to take a moment to say at CBA, we absolutely love events. I personally got my nonprofit start planning events for the American Red Cross. And because we love events, we're going to share a quick video interview with the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. And they're going to talk about how they turn their annual gala into a virtual event. But if you have staff or board that are nervous about switching from an event to an all mail and all email campaign, here's some information that may help. In the preparation for this presentation, I was talking to one library who told me their spring fundraising event has about a 4-to-1 return on investment, and that they estimate they spend about $200,000 in staff time before, during, and after the event. However, they said their direct mail and email campaigns have a return of about 30-to-1. So when it comes to doing a direct mail and email campaign for Library Giving Day, what are the steps to set yourself up for success? 1, of course, visit librarygivingday.org. 2, read through the toolkit from start to finish, and I would do that within the next few weeks. Don't wait. And then read it again a few weeks later, and ask your coworkers and board members to read it too. It literally has everything that you need to do spelled out step by step. And then 3, think about a Library Giving Day direct mail campaign to your current donors, your lapsed donors, and card holders if you can, and any prospects in your area, and we can absolutely help you with this at Carl Bloom. Then 4, think about emailing your donors and card holders during Library Giving Day. Fundraising online is perfect for Library Giving Day, and if you have any questions about this or need help, please send me an email and I'll provide that at the end of the webinar. 5, consider your social media presence for Library Giving Day. You want to have donor stories to post in the days leading up to Library Giving Day. And in a few minutes, we'll talk to the folks at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library Foundation about some videos their community recorded. You can replicate their efforts. And my 6th and final tip is to think outside of the box and engage your community. Do you have a contact at a local news station or newspaper? Ask them to write a story about the work you're doing in the community. But time that story so that it's right before or during your Library Giving Day campaign. Get your name out there with grassroots tactics like posters in store windows and buttons and yard signs and more. Let's talk a little bit about making the case for direct mail and email fundraising campaigns. The goal of this webinar is to show you what Library Giving Day can do for you, and one great solution is direct mail to donors and prospective donors and email campaigns to donors and even card holders if you can. And here is a list of libraries across the country that do direct mail and email fundraising campaigns. And these are just the ones that work with us at CBA. I know many more do. And there are a number of benefits to using direct mail and email. At CBA, we outline those things when we fundraise for a library. 1, we explain what great work your library is doing in the community. 2, we then explain why you need support. And 3, we tie it all together and we give a direct and clear way for the donor to make a gift quickly and efficiently, either in the mail or online. The preparation of that campaign takes a staff of 1 person just a few weeks to prepare because CBA handles the vast majority of writing the direct mails and emails, as well as the strategy, the data, the print production of the campaign, and all of the rest of it. That means if you've ever spent a long time communicating with a local printer about your mailing, or if you've waffled about what to put in your letter, you can leave that to us. We'll do it for you. And please contact us by early December if you need help with campaign prep. We're here for you. Now I want to take some time to let your peers share with you the things they did for Library Giving Day. First up, let's hear from Laura Vitko, Individual Giving Manager at the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library, who will tell us about their virtual event. So hi everyone, thank you so much. We're so pleased to have you. And for this little segment, Laura Vitko from the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library is here with us. We identified Laura and the St. Paul Public Library, or Friends of, as a great organization to talk to because they are a example of one of the groups that always has an in-person gala, an event, just like some of you out there who are wondering what to do, and they have successfully turned that in-person event into a virtual event. Laura's going to take a few minutes to tell us what they did for their October Opus and Olives event, which just occurred recently. Laura, can you walk us through what the event used to be like and then what you did this year?
Yeah, so thanks, Christina, and hi, everyone. I'm joining you all from snowy St. Paul. Um, can't believe it snowed here already, but it has. So yes, Opus and Olives has been our primary fundraising gala for many, many years at the Friends. It's been an October gala where we have featured 5 best-selling authors who have the opportunity to talk with our guests. So it's really a dinner and a show format gala. We don't do a live auction. It really is a show where people can enjoy hearing from the authors, enjoy learning more about the great work that the St. Paul Public Library does, and then feel inspired to make a gift. So during that event, we have the opportunity for people to get their books signed by authors prior to the show. During the presentations, authors will talk about their newly released book, and they'll also talk about why the library is meaningful to them. Um, there's a great meal served at the event. There's a fundraising ask done by our president, Beth Burns, and we also have a video that we show during the event that really highlights the great work of the library and really establishes that case for support that Beth also reiterates that message with her ask during the event. The event concludes with kind of a celebration. There's dessert served. People can talk with authors, get their photo taken with authors. So it really is a feel-good event that really lifts up our library. So this year, knowing that we couldn't gather 900 people in a room, and we also couldn't serve, a wonderful plate at dinner, we thought, what are we going to do? We knew, really, we made the decision, I believe, around May, June, that this was going to be a virtual event. We wouldn't be gathering in person. And so we sought out a company that could help us record sessions with authors. And so what we did is we pre-recorded most of the content, but we really thought outside of the box about what type of content we could share with our audience. So we still focused on best-selling authors who had a new publication coming out, but instead of 5, we chose 4. And we really thought outside of the box to say, hey, why not ask a cookbook author to do a cooking demo? Or why not ask someone who has a media presence already, who does, TV shows and has blog series that they do, be a participant this year and be an MC. So what we did this year is we had Mo Rocca as an MC. You may know him from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, or he used to be on The Daily Show, and he really did a fantastic job of engaging the other 3 authors in answering questions about, why the library is meaningful to them, why, what their book was about, and it just couldn't have gone better. So I would say if you are planning to host a virtual gala or virtual event, really focus on content that is meaningful, it's uplifting, it draws people in, and it makes them feel as though they're in the same room. I feel like that was one of the big successes for us in having Mo Rocca and someone who has a very dynamic personality kind of be the leader of that event. The other key thing we did with our virtual event is we engaged our stakeholders. We engaged library staff, we engaged our board, we engaged community members in sharing why the library is meaningful to them and meaningful to our community. So kind of interlaced with all of the the Q&As and presentations with our authors, we had content about the library and content about the Friends and why it was so important to support the Friends in the library during this time. One of the other things that was really successful is during the virtual event, we had a chat function where people could make comments and say, hey, I'm joining you from, my living room, or hey, I'm joining you and toasting with a cocktail, so that people felt like they were part of this community. And that was successful. We also did do a few live segments with Mo Rocca where he was able to give verbal shout outs to people who were writing comments in the chat. And so they felt so special to get that acknowledgement from him. So I would say another thing to think of as you're doing a virtual event is how you can make your audience feel seen and appreciated. Whether that's during a live chat or just planning in advance, how can you have, people send in a video from their iPhone to say, why the library is meaningful for them, and then show that during your virtual event. So it's just thinking of all the different ways you can engage people and focus on uplifting positive content that makes people feel connected, because that's really what people are craving right now.
Okay, and Laura, I want to ask you, as people are thinking about planning these events internally, I am guessing that your team probably had a lot of enthusiasm for what was going on, and really kind of bought into the whole process and said, you know what, we're going to do this the right way and we're going to be happy about it, even though it's different from normal. Would you say that was accurate?
Yes, I would say, another key strength of our friends group and organization is we have a very engaged board and we have a very engaged staff. And so having our committees come together, our committee members come together with new ideas, having our staff come together with new ideas, and just continuing to move forward and not being afraid to do things the right way, whatever that means. Just trying, kind of being forced to try new things is a good thing. It's a good challenge to have. And I would say that, reflecting back, certainly if we need to do a virtual event again, there are some things we might tweak, but overall, just being in communication with your team and relying on your team members for their individual strengths will really help you put together a virtual event or to try a new strategy for your fundraising endeavors this year.
Okay, exciting. And one final question for you before we end this little segment is, I heard you say that you decided kind of around June. So, June to October really is about 4 months. And when we think about Library Giving Day as being a time where there could be a virtual event, that would mean that people would start planning in about December, January. Would you say 4 months was a good amount of planning time?
I would say yes, it is. And certainly, if you have more time, it's always better. But, kind of where I would start is identifying what resources you have internally and what resources you need to seek out. So we knew we have a lot of talent internally, but what we didn't have the capacity to do is a whole production studio and editing process. That just wasn't in our wheelhouse. So we contracted with a production company who could film authors across the country and edit the program so that it really was quite seamless and it was such a well-run event. Could we have done that internally? Possibly, but the amount of time it would have taken our team to do that, it just wasn't feasible. So I would start with, kind of identifying what you want to do for your virtual event. Who are the people you want to involve? Are you going to bring in authors? Are you going to bring in community members? And start contacting them right away. But don't be afraid to kind of, edit your plans as you go along. We certainly had to kind of reconvene and change, our strategy going forward. But overall, it was a hugely successful event. We exceeded our night of fundraising goal and our ticket sales goal. That's another thing I should mention. We made the decision to charge for the event and pitch it as a fundraiser where people purchase a ticket. A lot of other organizations are doing free events. And so I think that's something too, as you plan to do a ticketed versus a free event, is just talk with your colleagues. A lot of people talked with us and everyone's happy to share more information.
Okay, and I know I said just one more question, but I have one more question. And that is, before we started this recording, you and I were just chatting for a little bit, and you'd mentioned you have this wonderful event. And I want to share it with the audience. It's Zoom call coffee with Beth, who's your, I think you said your president. The significance of this is, we've talked about this really wonderful, extraordinary, beautiful event you've had. But what you just mentioned was that you can also do something that's a little more simple. And so I think that your example of the coffee Zoom with your president is a great example of, hey, if you can only do a little something, that's okay too. Do you mind telling us briefly about that?
Yeah, certainly. I'm happy to. So our president of the Friends, Beth Burns, she's a great communicator, and she had this idea that to connect with our supporters, while we can't all be in the same room and gathering for the events that we would do in a typical year, we still want to feel connected. And that feeling is really also expressed by our donors as we've gotten to meet with them virtually through Zoom calls, which are really easy to set up, is that people are just more available and they're looking for opportunities to gather. So we will invite, we do these weekly, we'll invite a small group of people. Um, we usually are a little bit strategic about who is in the group. So we've had some Zoom calls that are with board members, a group of board members, some with groups of former board members, and some with just donors of a certain capacity, who we want to connect with. And the content of that presentation, it can either focus on connecting it to an upcoming fundraising appeal, so kind of planting the seeds for your donors or board members to start thinking about those topics, or it can be a pure stewardship presentation where you just have Beth talking about a topic or something that's a recent update in the library, and just sharing with your supporters to give them an insider view in the great work that libraries are doing in our community.
Okay, thanks. Laura, I just really want to thank you so much for the two different scenarios you've shared with us, and both were meaningful, and I hope that people find value in them and they can be tailored to whatever works for your library. So Laura, we'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next up, Teleia White, Director of Individual Giving at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library Foundation, who's going to tell us more about how they got their community to participate in Library Giving Day. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this little mini session within our overall webinar. I want to bring on a new person to speak with us about something they've done for Library Giving Day in the past. We have Teleia White with us, and she's the Director of Individual Giving at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library Foundation. So thanks so much for joining us today, Teleia, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Welcome.
Great. Thank you.
So I have heard through the grapevine, and I've seen some of these wonderful videos that you made for Library Giving Day. Could you walk me through what you did?
Sure. Last year we decided that we really wanted to get a lot of our volunteers involved. So we reached out to our Library Foundation board, as well as to a lot of our volunteers that we have through our capital campaign and our Friends Council, and just sent them an email and asked them if they would make a video for Library Giving Day. We didn't want them to be very long, but just why is it important to support the library, and they could be as creative as they wanted. And you can see on our website there's a variety of different videos on there. We just sent them some simple instructions and asked them to send those back to us, and then all we did was edit them a little bit from there to just put our contact information. And we got a lot of really fun choices, a lot of variety of activities from some of our folks that had children, and then some that didn't, and why they use the library and why it's important to support libraries. So we were really thrilled with what they sent us back.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And so as you were asking people to make these, and I heard you say that there were specific instructions, was it along the lines of, please make this no longer than 30 seconds or 60 seconds? Can you tell me more about that?
Generally, we gave them instructions on how we asked them to do just an iPhone video, and So we asked them, we told them we wanted them to hold the video, that we wanted the horizontal versus vertical. And we asked them to make them, I think, between 30 and 60 seconds. So, and then we got back, we didn't give very much time. So I think a lot of people, we planned a lot more for Library Giving Day this past year than we did the first year, but even with that, we asked our volunteers to do that pretty quickly within maybe 3 weeks of Library Giving Day.
Okay, great. And did you post these videos? What did you do with them on the day of?
So our plan was, we had a week leading up to Library Giving Day, and we flooded our social media with those videos. So we released 2 a day leading up to Library Giving Day, and then on Library Giving Day, I believe we put 3 on all of our social media sites, and then all of those videos are also located on our website and still are.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so this sounds like a really cost-effective, grassroots way to get the community involved. And do you personally have a favorite video that you want to point out, and maybe it will be inspiration for anyone?
I have 2 that are my absolute favorites. One was one of our board of trustee members. Her name's Eileen Ariaza, and she and her family did a video of what they use at the library, and it's fun to see the children get involved, and that was a surprise. We didn't know that, like, some of our folks were going to use their whole families. And then the other one was another trustees of ours, Charles Thomas, and he did one with his family, and they were singing. I mean, it was just really fun to see what people came up with. We had a lot of creativity, and it was nice to not give too many instructions, and then they just came up with what they wanted, and we really felt like it was an authentic way for them to showcase why they use the library or why you should support the library.
Okay. Well, I really want to thank you for this, because I think that there are a lot of things that for certain libraries might seem kind of daunting and large, but this seems absolutely doable for every library. So thank you for providing us with something that's really universal.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
and I'm sure that you might have people reaching out to you about this, so we will give your contact information, or they can post on the Facebook page if they have any questions. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So friends, here are your next steps. Of course, visit librarygivingday.org. Read the toolkit and make a plan. And feel free to contact me, Christina@carlbloom.com, for help with direct mail and email strategies. Make sure to get your social media game ready and engage your grassroots resources, your community, the local news, and anyone else who wants to get the word out about Library Giving Day. Well, thanks everyone. I would now like to spend a few minutes answering any questions you have. Please feel free to chat those to us in the box. Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this webinar. We really enjoyed speaking with some of our colleagues and learning more about what they did for their events. And I want to take a few minutes to answer some questions that have come in. I'd invite you to ask questions if you'd like to know more about Laura's event, if you would like to know about making videos, if you'd like to know about librarygivingday.org, what you can download, if you have questions about direct mail or email services, if you want to know more about the results that we shared, we'd be happy to go over those with you. So let me go ahead and answer some of these questions. So we see some really in-depth questions for Laura, and I'm going to go through, let's see, what can I answer? So I believe when I was speaking with Laura, she said they had a similar number of event attendees as they did with the live event, but of course a virtual event opens up for more attendees. There was another question about what Laura charged for her tickets. So I am going to have an instructional video that Laura gave me about how they did their event. I'm going to post that to the International Public Library Fundraising Forum, which is on Facebook. If anybody does not know where that is, just let me know. I'd be very happy to help you get access to that Facebook page. It's a wonderful resource. Someone asks, can I share average gift info or second gift info from Library Giving Day? When we look at the average gift, It depends greatly where someone is in the country, but I believe we saw an average gift of about $117. Of course, for nonprofits on the coast, they tend to just naturally see a larger giving size. For nonprofits in the Midwest, they do tend to see a slightly smaller giving size for any campaign that they're running. And then let's answer some questions that have come in on, all right, we've got a few people saying, I saw on Library Giving Day that it's recommended that we get a matching grant. When should we try to secure that and what should we do? And that's such a wonderful question. I really want to address that. I do recommend in all situations that you get a matching grant or a matching gift. You can take an existing gift that's come in from a board member, or if you've got a company locally that wants to be your match, you will see your gifts be doubled. It is a substantial motivator for the donor when they see something along the lines of your gift will be matched dollar for dollar. Another thing to consider is that we see matching gifts do really well in the emails that you send. So let's pretend that you go to Library Giving Day and you download the free emails. You can craft those so that it has matching gift language. Additionally, if you want to use the Carl Bloom emails, we will tailor the language for your organization and we'll also send those emails out for you. But if you have any questions about how to get a matching gift, you can always reach out to me. Let's see, when it comes to direct mail, we've got a question. How many efforts of direct mail do you recommend? I recommend sending definitely one piece of direct mail to your audience, but 2 pieces is really good. So that means that you'd be sending 1 letter to donors, and then about 2 to 3 weeks later, you'd be sending a follow-up letter to donors. And somebody says, can Carl Bloom send emails on behalf of the organization? And the answer is absolutely. Let me see, what other questions do we have? Somebody has asked what Charlotte Mecklenburg made on their Library Giving Day campaign, and I can ask them and we will send that out in a follow-up email. And if someone's interested in doing direct mail or emails, how far in advance should they get started? And I think this is kind of a universal thing. I would tell the audience to really start planning, as we said in the video, immediately. I think it's important that you download the toolkit today, this week, read the toolkit, and as I said, reread it again in a few weeks. Give it to your key stakeholders, your board. It has a step-by-step way to have a successful Library Giving Day campaign. We have tweets that you can plan to tweet out. We have Facebook posts, there are emails, there's almost like a mini press release that you can use and just tailor for yourself. I know a lot of people are kind of nervous, you know, hey, we usually have this very big spring event, but now we're not able to do that. Really do let Library Giving Day and socially distant things like direct mail and email be the solution to that. One more question came in about the event that Laura talked about, and again, I'm going to share in the follow-up email, I'll share a link that Laura has about how they did their event. Also, if anyone else is interested in learning more, I would be very happy to arrange with Laura a how-to, webinar. We can talk more about their event, and then everybody would know how to do a virtual event. Are there any more questions? Oh, someone is asking, when should social media ads start to get posted? I think that it's safe 1 month out from Library Giving Day to say on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram page, hey, we're 1 month away. And then you want to probably do it when you're 3 weeks out and 2 weeks out, and then the week of Library Giving Day, you really want to push it and do quite a few posts that week. This is a great time when you could do what Teleia White at Charlotte Mecklenburg did, and you could be posting your videos in advance. So if you had 6 videos, that gives you 6 really great opportunities to post. Let's see. I see someone says they looked on the Library Giving Day website and the toolkit. The toolkit may have that date on it, but it has been updated within the last week. So feel comfortable downloading it. A lot of the information in the toolkit is evergreen. And There is one other question, and this is such a fantastic question, and I'd like to wrap up with this because I think it's very important. With regard to COVID and the fact that it is a hot topic and we're seeing cases rise across the country, do I recommend continuing fundraising? I absolutely do. This is where we are right now, seems very similar to where we were last March. People were nervous about fundraising. I want to tell you that we've seen such a wonderful outpouring of support for our libraries, for the public media stations we work with, for the Habitats for Humanities. At Carl Bloom, we're seeing all of the direct mail and email campaigns do significantly better than they have in past years. There is just an outpouring of people wanting to do the right thing. I would not shy away from Library Giving Day. I would feel very comfortable as long as you are telling the value that you present to your community in all of your communications, as long as you're being transparent, as long as you're telling people that you know COVID is a factor, but you're telling them the things that you're doing despite the fact that COVID is an issue in your community, how you're rising to the occasion, then that will give them reason to make a donation. And that makes you kind of in touch with everything that's going on in the world. So my number one recommendation would be do not shy away from fundraising, rely on your community because they rely on you. And that's really it for today. I see that we have some questions about the event that I didn't answer. So again, we're going to post a how-to video from Laura Vitko, and we're going to send this recording out shortly. I'm going to post a few things on the International Public Library Fundraising Forum Facebook page. And if any of you have questions, please email me at christina@carlbloom.com. And we hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for attending.